that you want me to say or whatever. You can always put things into the chat if you don't want to say it on the screen. So if you just go down to the bottom of your screen, there's that chat button.
Let me try.
Okay. Yep, there you are. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll just reply so you can see what that looks like.
Yeah. I got it.
Cool. All righty. So, Monica, thank you very much. I'm excited because you are, I think, the first woman who I've talked to who has any kind of a really substantial role in the real estate investing and real estate creation industry. And I looked at your resume, of course, and it's extremely impressive. Sorry, I'm just repositioning myself here. And so I'm even more excited for that reason, because I know that you're obviously very talented and very intelligent and have a lot of excellent information to share today.
Thank you.
Will you enlighten the folks listening, just tell them a little bit about your background and a little bit about what got you interested in architecture and real estate in general?
Yes, actually, I am an architect. I studied architecture in Caracas, Venezuela, because I am from Venezuela. I was born there, and now I have 4 years living in Boston. So I really, really like architecture. I went there to a beautiful university named Universidad Simón Bolívar in Caracas, Venezuela. So I really, really like architectural. I think because my father was pretty involved in construction in Venezuela. So that was part of his business. And I kind of like grew up, surrounded by people related to construction, commercial and residential as well. So that's the reason I think I like, I decided to become an architect when I was in high school. And now I am here, in Boston, and I am really interested in the residential real estate. Also, my husband is an engineer and a general contractor.
Okay.
So we're working together here in our company. And as I told you, we only have here 4 years.
Yes. So how do you like Boston?
So far, I really like it. I mean, it's a great place to have kids, to grow up, to get your kids into the schools, and they are loving the city very, very much.
They don't mind the weather.
I mean, especially coming from the Caribbean, the weather can be a challenge, but I think we're getting used to it. We live in London for 2 years, so I think that helped us a little bit because we already had the experience of, being dark for a lot of hours, and the snow, it's kind of new for us because in London we didn't have that much of snow.
Yeah.
Our kids are already used to it, and they love to ski, and they don't mind the cold.
Yeah.
My husband and I was still working on getting used to it.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're gonna get 100% used to it, but we'll see.
Well, this winter has luckily been very mild and not too bad as far as, I don't think as far as the temperatures go for us, but last year there was a lot of snow last year.
Yes.
So now in the company that you share with your husband, what are you specializing in, a specific type of architecture now, or specific aspect of real estate?
Yes, we're doing residential real estate. As developers, we try to find houses that need some work, or maybe houses that are tear downs and start from scratch in our projects, because sometimes it's easier for us to start from scratch and just use the lands, but everything kind of depends on the deal itself, depending on the cost of the house and the amount of work that we have to put in. But we are doing mainly at this point residential real estate, but we also do construction for third parties or other investors. Can be a real estate investor or a owner that wants to fix or build their new houses. Yeah.
So did you do this in London and in Venezuela as well?
I did it in Venezuela. In London, we were there because we were studying, and I studied construction economics and management in London. And then we went back to Venezuela, and I worked on the construction industry in Venezuela. Like I had my own company for 10 years, but then we moved here. So this is
Starting
kind of
from scratch,
our,
yeah.
yes, yes, we had to.
Yeah. Now, how does it differ? I mean, this is a very naive question. I have never tried to build anything in Venezuela. How does it, I mean, is the architecture different? Is the procedure different? Is the politics and the environment different?
Yes, everything is different. First of all, we never use wood in Venezuela. We are located in an area that has a lot of earthquakes.
Mhm.
So we have to use either metal, steel structures, or reinforced concrete. So that's the main difference.
Yeah,
Our foundations are deeper in Venezuela.
yeah.
Here, the foundations are not that deep,
Mhm.
and the structural designs it's based out of wood. The framing system gives you more flexibility than the concrete structure.
Mhm.
In Venezuela, the steel structure can be a little bit more flexible than the concrete, but it will be never as flexible as the framing system that you guys have here.
Yeah.
So it's very fast. We don't have standardized materials, like for example windows and those type of elements. Most of them are not standardized, so we have to build everything from scratch.
Wow.
So it takes longer. Here it's very easy because most of the elements that you use are standardized, and you can just buy them and use them without having to create every piece from scratch. So that's one of the main difference that you'll see
Yeah.
from Venezuela to here.
Mhm.
And also the design it's different because the weather issues here, you have to be more conscious about the use of openings and windows and glass, because there's a difference with the weather.
Yeah.
So also when you design spaces here, you kind of like design everything inside the house. In Venezuela, you can have more open spaces and design more the outdoor. Here,
Yeah.
the outdoor, kind of like it's not designed for the whole year. So
Right.
it's kind of different because you have to think about the outside, and that will change across all the seasons and will be, useful. It will have different uses across the different seasons. So you are not gonna expect to use those spaces across the whole year. So the design is more indoor design.
Yeah, I've been to other warm countries and see how they incorporate the outdoors inside. I remember when I was in Morocco, the whole building is built around an open area that you can, get the sun and the air and the rain even comes into the what we would consider the house, but it's just so nice to have that, the free flowing air and the freshness that it's difficult to incorporate that here, like you say, because if you had that open sky, you would have snow in your house sometimes.
Yes, on those designs, the open space that we can call like a patio, that patio, it's kind of designed in a way that you can get like you can reduce the temperature inside the house because you can get the airflow. Here you don't want to do that. So,
No.
so that's the reason the design it's more like an indoor and closer structure, which is very convenient when you have framing, because framing it's like a whole system that it supports by itself. You don't want to have holes in the whole thing.
Yeah,
So makes sense that people here use framing structure.
yeah,
So those are mostly the difference. When it comes to design a kitchen or a bathroom or maybe a bedroom or even a living room, the strategy that you use to design those spaces are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
here or there, but when you are designing the whole structure, it's pretty different.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you see, uh, with all of your experience, you've got some industrial experience, some commercial, residential. Do you feel like that impacts or influences your designs? Because you've got that big, um, you know, warehouse of experience that you're bringing to a project that maybe someone who's only ever done residential or something wouldn't take anything. You just think you view projects a little bit differently because you have that extra experience.
I do think that when you do this kind of like crossover from one industry to another, you bring more efficiencies to the design for sure.
Yeah.
Because when you do houses, you are used to one type of design all the time. It's kind of like copy paste.
Yeah.
But when you bring experiences for other industries or other sectors of the real estate, you can bring more efficiency and think out of the box and bring new ideas, because you already had those expertise in those other areas.
Yeah.
So for example, if you are building commercial where the real estate is very important but very modular or very standardized, you can bring those ideas into the design of a house, and maybe you can build a different house, but keeping those efficiencies in the new design without having to have this house that you have, without having to have the design that people have all the time. You can bring new ideas and still be efficient
Mhm.
by doing those um, crossovers ideas from one place to another. I
Yeah.
think that's one of
Yeah.
the main things.
Now, it sounds like are you doing smaller sort of residential projects, or are you actually tearing down homes and putting up, huge sort of structures? What's the largest project that you've taken on since you've been in the States?
Right now, we're doing a pretty big house. We are taking down a 1,800 square feet house, and we're building a 3,000 square feet in the same lot. So that's the biggest we've done so far.
Mhm.
So those are the things that you can reuse some part of the foundation, for example,
Mhm.
and you can reuse some of the inner elements, but the whole structure gotta be new because the house is completely different. We are, if we're gonna change the direction of the roof or the design of the entrance and everything, you gotta start from scratch because it makes more sense and it's more cost efficient as
Yeah.
well.
How about energy efficiency sort of things? Have you become interested in like green building design or anything that's kind of has to do with using the natural environment to make the house more efficient?
Yes, I think as an architect, that's a must be that every single professional gotta have in their minds, how to build in a not only in a more cost efficient way, but also in a more conscious way with the environment.
Mhm.
I think that that's a very important topic. Also how to make not only the construction process but also how to make the house more sustainable for the environment as well, how to use maybe less power or less water, and how to make the house an element that will impact less in the environment. So I think that I am very interested in that. I have to learn a lot because since I'm working right now here, the same way that happens with the structure, the same way it happened with all the other resources. For example, septic systems, drills, all those different elements are different also here.
Yeah.
So in order to make them more efficient, we're also learning how they are used right now and how we can make them more efficient for the future as well. Electricity, solar power, you know insulation, it's a very important one. How you can work with with your design and the insulation to make the house more efficient
Mm.
with all the energy challenges that a house will have here because of the weather, especially because of the weather.
Yeah.
And maybe how to design a house that during the summer it doesn't need that much of air conditioning, because what we are seeing right now, it's a lot of houses that have a lot of heating during winter, a lot of air conditioning, so
Yeah.
they are getting even more dependent on resources,
Yeah.
instead of making them more, self-sufficient, without having to spend that much of resources to keep them running.
Yeah. Now, do you see, because I feel like, you were talking about septic systems, people who have been working with them during their whole career, they're not going to say, hey, how could we do this more efficiently? How could we maybe change some things and make this whole process work better? Do you see any other, do you see any mistakes or anything that we do here sort of by habit that you think, gee, that seems like a strange choice, coming at it from your experience?
Yes, I do think sometimes, here the time is very important, and sometimes, the decisions that are taken by the general contractors or the people involved in the construction, since they have so much pressure to, keep building, sometimes they just use the things that they are used to, instead of, trying to apply or try new technology or ideas
Yeah.
that are going to be more green for the environment.
Yeah.
But since they're, in such a pressure to build the houses really fast, so there is a lot of work that has to be done previous the building process, where you can, design these new options, so those new ideas will start getting incorporated in the regular practice of those general contractors. So gotta be like a work in progress for the future, but takes those additional, weeks, a couple of, I don't know if that's gonna be like a couple of weeks or something, but take that additional time at the beginning to plan everything and try to start, incorporating new things and new technology and new ideas that will make the house more efficient, instead of having a project and trying to rush it and use the same thing that you've used, you know the last X amount of years.
Yeah.
So in order to make the change, it takes time and a little bit of planning, especially at the beginning. But then, you can reuse those learnings and keep improving for the future. So I think that's a very important uh, task that we have as an architects and designers and builders as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. A lot of people, they just rush in and say, okay, we're under the gun now. We have to hurry up and get this done. Just bring me all my same guys, all my same equipment, all my same flooring that I always use, and the same, you know, cabinet person and granite guy. And, we're just going to do everything cookie cutter. And if they would take the time in the beginning, they might come up with something more interesting, more appealing, more cost effective. But it's not always easy to do that. Do you Now, I noticed on your resume, on your CV, you were talking about that you help people to do real estate investment decision making. What does that entail? How would that work?
That has to be with, when people are, for example, as an investor, when they are buying a house to make a project as an investment project. So how we can do that design, so it will be a good design that will sell good, that will have all the things that the other houses around may have, but also a competitive advantage with the design that will bring more value to the property. So
Yeah.
for example, if you have a project and all the houses around are, for example, 3 bed, 2 bathrooms, how to make the same 3 bed, 2 bathroom, but uh, with a different design or something even better that will bring value for the customers to place that project in a better position when it comes to competition by the time that you're going to sell the property. So that's very important. How to use the design to bring more value to the project, but it's not also for investor, but also for the people that will live there. If you are working with a person that is building their own house, it's important to understand their needs, but also how to make the design in a way that in the future will put that house in a good spot when it comes to sell the house as well.
Yeah.
So good real estate investment decisions, not only for investors but also for the people that will be living there, but eventually will sell their houses.
Yeah. And it's smart. That's a lot of people, when they're looking at, okay, I have some amount of money to put into my home, they're not necessarily going to put it into the place that is going to bring them more resale. They might put it in a place that, just spends the money and doesn't really.
Yes, it's also how to get a balance, because you may want to spend the money in things that you like, but that money won't bring value to your property. But you may put some of the other money in areas that will bring value for the future, but also meet your expectations. So it's kind of like a balance.
Yeah.
It's not like spending thousands of dollars in, I don't know, in curtains or whatever, things that
Right.
are not bringing value to the property, but you
Right.
like it. So it's kind of like a balance between how to make the property a more value asset, and
Mm-hmm.
also have something that you like and that you enjoy. And I think that's where the architect has a lot of work in helping the client how to put together their project and finding that balance as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in all the different sides of real estate, the architecture side, the design, the doing your own projects, the general contracting side, and then all the different kinds of experience that you have. Do you have a favorite? Do you have any aspect of the industry that you really enjoy more than others?
I really like to be on site, and I do really like to do residential, because residential you can get that balance between the things that bring value and the things that the customer will like, and in a way that will bring beauty. When you are doing commercial, it's different. It's mostly about efficient and an area, and all the
Yeah.
things that the commercial involve. But
Yeah.
when you do residential, you have more room to play with the design and bring an experience for the person that will live there. When it comes to commercial, the experience will come later. So
Yeah.
we're not part of that experience. We're just part of
Yeah.
the
Putting the
real
box
estate
together.
itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
More of an assembly as opposed to getting your creativity involved, right?
Yes, and with a house it's different, because you can start putting some elements together, like the bathroom, the kitchen, all the materials, the interior, the design, to bring the experience to life. So I think that's the reason I prefer to do residential. And be on site, it's very exciting, because you start seeing the things that you design, and I think that's a pretty exciting part of the process as well.
Yeah. Seeing it all come to life.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
noticed on your CV that you had done some juries, you've been being done jurying for people's thesis. And I just thought that sounded like a lot of fun, a really interesting experience. Can
It
you
is
talk about
fun,
that a little
and
bit?
actually I love it. I really, really love it. And since I am living here, I'm looking for an opportunity in the future to kind of like be a professor again,
Mhm.
since a part-time, of course.
Yeah.
But I would love to go back and have the opportunity to be on those, juries again.
What's involved in the thesis? What do people have to present to you? What type? Is it like a whole project or some element of design?
It depends. It depends of the course that is finishing, because I was invited to those juries when the course were getting over. So it was like a final project. It
Hmm.
will depend mainly on the type of course that the students are going through. So it can be anything from the beginning of the architectural design up to the final project when you are getting graduated as an architect. So it can be anything. It will if I do it here, it will depend also on the college or university that I will be helping or getting involved with.
Yeah. Did you remember any of the theses that that struck you as being particularly creative or different or way out of the box, or that you enjoyed hearing about?
Yes, I do remember a house that was built on the beach, and it was 100% sustainable. It didn't have any water or electricity connected to it, so
Wow.
it had like a system that will transform the salty water into, regular water to be used. It had like the septic system for all the sewage. It was like a very, very, I mean, it was a small house, but it was a very nice, project.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating.
Yes,
Yeah.
electricity was with solar panels. It has all the all the systems that were involved in the design were, like very so they were very thoughtful about the way they designed the house, not to make it like an ugly house with all the system that had to be involved in the process and in the final design.
I've seen some things. This is just like people trying to do things on their own, like a rooftop garden that captures the rainwater and irrigates all the plants at the same time and things like that, and reuses, you know, the water that, that falls naturally and things like that. It's just when you really stop and think about it, right? There's so many different things you can do.
Yes, and they're they are so intuitive. Like, for example, taking a shower with the raining kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not applicable here in this weather, but that project was in the Caribbean, so it was easier.
Yeah.
So here will be a little bit more difficult, but still, that was, I think that was one of the projects that I really, really enjoyed to learn about, and to, I had to make comments, and I had to make questions, and that was a very interesting project that I saw.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
What do you have any advice for people who are trying to do some of their own, whether they're um, fixing up their home or whether they're buying and fixing a home to resell? Any kind of design suggestions or any thoughts or suggestions in any aspect of that?
I've seen here that one of the main problem people have is that I think people don't understand the difference between a space and the circulation. So sometimes you have a space that is smaller than the circulation that, they design to access to that space. I think in order to, I do know that the framing can be a little bit sometimes the framing can be a little bit difficult to deal with that relationship. But I think, a good recommendation is trying to understand the proportions between the space that you use to get to the space and the space itself. Because sometimes you see areas that are like a space that is useless, and then the circulation is a very big useless space, and then you get to a room or a space that is not, big enough. So one of the main things that I will say, it's every time you are planning on, redesign a space, be very mindful about the relationship between circulation and the space, and then you'll have a better final result if you, since the beginning, think about the relationship between a space and the circulation. For a kitchen, for a bathroom, when you start thinking about the circulation and the space, then you'll understand where to put the doors, where the doors are going to be open to. So all those little things will come if you start from the beginning thinking about the whole picture and the circulation as well,
So how people are going to move through the space, how they're going
through
to
the
use the
space.
space, what I see that a lot in kitchens where people who don't cook, design these kitchens, and you just think, yes, it's big, but that's not really an asset today, You just, I remember I was working with a tile guy and he brought me to this house. He was so proud of the work he had done. And literally, it was probably a 400 square foot kitchen, and the refrigerator was on one side of the kitchen, and all the other stuff was on the other side of the kitchen. I thought the person working here is going to need roller skates to make a meal. They just went with big. That was the asset. It's like big is not.
Big is not. The,
Not
the,
necessarily
the,
good.
the circulation was very, very, very big, and the space was very, very small. So think about the relationship between the circulation, which is the space that you need to move from one space to another, and then the space itself. So
Yeah.
because having a big space is not, it's not the best solutions all the time. If you're having a big space that you're not gonna use because it's just circulation to move from one point to another,
Yeah.
then you're losing a space somewhere else where you're gonna need it.
Yeah. And the
So
other
that's very
thing,
important.
one thing that we do here, and I would like to hear your thoughts about this, is the way we design a lot of the different home styles that we have here. You know, thinking about your conversation about circulation and stuff is just like a lot of hallways, a lot of, you know, this is just a way to get to another space. Like you say, there's just a big wasted area in order to get to a room that could potentially be bigger if you did the layout a little bit differently.
Yes, I think most of those houses were built like 100 years ago. Now we know that we can replace some of the framing or some of those, bearing walls with metal beams that will support the weight of the second floor of the first floor. So you'll have more like an open space, and those are the things that people are looking for, because in open space you have more flexibility, and if you are mindful about the circulation and that open space, you'll have a lot of possibilities, for people to use it. And it's very important when it comes to investment, because if the person who is going to buy that house understand the way they can use it, then it's easier to sell that house. And if you on the other hand, if you have a house that is difficult to understand, that you have little spaces and you have a lot of circulations, and then few useful space, then it's difficult for that investor or for that person to resell that house. So it's important to keep in mind, that flexibility and that relationship, so you can create more efficient spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, you just reminded me of a house that I had was the seller's agent on, and it had the way they had broken up the house. There were all these strange little areas, and I thought, well, what are people going to be like? Well, what's this for? So I had to really think about when I staged it, like, okay, this could be, an office, or this could be a little seating area where you can just look out the windows. Like, what is this space? But yeah, I know what you mean, because if people can't picture themselves there, they're not going to be interested in it. They're not going to attach their heart to the building, and they're not going to want to buy it.
Yes, and if it is difficult for you that you're going to stage, can you imagine for a person it's gonna be even more difficult for them to understand how to use it. So
Yeah, exactly.
So if it is a design well done, then it will be easy for the listing agent to stage it and give them an idea how they can use it. And it will be easier for the person that will buy the house to understand how they will fit their furniture, or how they're going to use that space in the future if they were to buy that house.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Monica, what else should I have asked you? What else do you want to share that I have failed to ask?
Uh, Let me think. I think you did a pretty good job. I don't know. Let me think. I would say that, when it comes to design, another important trick or advice, or something that we should, always keep in mind, is try to create contrast with the materials, but without overkill the whole thing. So try to find 3 or 4 materials that you like, and create when you are designing a house, create a palette where you can put all those materials and make sure they work together, and then use only those materials, instead of putting one material here and one material there, without having the whole picture. So keeping the whole picture is very, very important, not only for designing the spaces when it comes to circulation versus the space that you're using, but also keeping the big picture with the materials themselves. So bring a palette, create like one idea, and thinking about the whole picture, the whole house,
Yeah.
and then use those materials in a creative way, indoor and outdoor as well. So because sometimes you see a house that is, it's very very white, but it's so white that it doesn't have like energy or flavor, because it's like, so white. So
Yeah.
if you create that palette since the beginning, you can understand that those, contrast between those two materials, and then you can apply it and you'll create, more excitement, not only indoor but also indoor, bathrooms, kitchens.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, and I have to note that because I have a habit of, designing one room at a time, and then they don't flow, right? If you just say, "Oh, I found this, piece of something on sale. I'm going to put that here, and then I've got this other thing," and then, you walk from one room to another, and you're like, is this like a theme house? This room is metal, and this room is wood, and this room is whatever.
It can be that can be the idea, to have like a very eclectic design, but you gotta have something in common across the board.
Yeah.
So try to find that element that will bring everything, that will bring you the big picture.
Yeah.
That element that maybe it's a color, maybe it's a detail, maybe it's a material, and then you'll have, the
Build on
all
that.
other elements that will match that idea. So keeping the big picture, it's very very important for the materials, for the design space, for the circulation is important, to avoid, for example, in the circulation, to avoid having, inefficiencies with the materials. It's important to keep the whole picture, to avoid having, inconsistencies and
Well, mental confusion.
yes, I mean, and like a collage design that doesn't, is not appeal.
Yeah, it's unsettling to your mind,
Yeah.
I think, because your mind is trying to make sense of things and put them into some kind of pattern, and if there is nothing, it just feels
Yes, and
tiring.
it's important to keep, it's important to keep that palette indoor and outdoor as well, because sometimes you see a house that, from the outside has like an idea, and then you go inside and it's completely different. So sometimes it's better to have, both of them together, because we'll bring the excitement to the person who's gonna live there, since they are outdoor when they are indoor. So
Yeah.
try to keeping the whole picture is very important. So I
Yeah.
think that's one of the advice that I will give to a person that is designing or building a new house. Try to keep the whole picture is very very important.
Yes, that's excellent advice. Thank you very much. So is that part of what you help people do as well when you're consulting with them, is to create that that theme that's going to carry forward throughout the house?
Yes, and for example, if I have a client that wants me to help her with a bathroom, I gotta think that that bathroom is part of a whole. So I gotta design the bathroom so it will match the rest of the house, instead of going and building this new bathroom that I saw on a magazine somewhere else. So it doesn't make sense. You have to design something that it's part of the whole thing, in circulation, in materials, in idea, in relationship with other spaces. Everything gotta be together, even though you are doing only a bathroom. For
Yeah.
example, if you're doing a kitchen, it has to work with the living room or the dining room that is next to it. Maybe you're not working on those two spaces, but you gotta design in a way that will work with all those other pieces, instead of
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a kitchen. So try
Yeah.
to keep in mind the whole picture. It's very, very important. And especially when you have a client that only needs you to work on one area, that's very very important to keep, because that will make the design successful.
Yeah. And that's an excellent point, because people do their designs in a vacuum. I'm going to go to Home Depot and they're going to help me design my kitchen, but then it might, like you say, I saw it in a magazine, this is what I want, and then you actually put it in the house and they don't like it, and they don't know why they don't like it, but it's just because it doesn't fit, it doesn't flow with the rest of the house.
It's not part, it has nothing to do with the rest of the spaces. So we got to be very careful of, things that we like it, because they're beautiful, but maybe they're not. We have to treat to make some changes before, doing those ideas into another space, because if you copy and paste, it may not be the right fit.
Yeah.
It's just try to understand why you like it, and the elements that are nice of that design, and how you're going to apply them into the new design and make them work here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Monica. I really appreciate your time and all your wisdom that you shared today.
Thank you
um,
very much for the invitation.
so, Monica, if people want to get in touch with you and have you help them with their designs and just, work with you on a project, how can they reach you?
I think the best way to reach out to me is by email. My email is Monica at A, like letter A, one as number one, real estate resolutions, like realestatesolutions.com.
Okay, great. I'll put that on the website too. My website is getyourfillpodcast.com, and we'll put your CV will be there, your photo, and then all the your email. And then, is there anything? Do you guys have a website for your building company that I should link to?
Yes, A1REsolutions.com.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you very much. I
Okay,
hope we
thank you
get to
very
meet in
much.
person sometime.
Yes, we have
Yeah,
to.
definitely, definitely. Do you ever go to any of the events for? Let me just put this.